Linda Hirsch, and this is EdCast, a program created and produced by educators for everyone interested in education. Increasing diversity in New York City classrooms is a key issue for the de Blasio administration, but the lack of diversity extends beyond the students in the class. In a city where male students of color make up 43% of the public school demographic, only 8.3% of the teachers leading these classrooms are Black, Latino, and Asian males. Research points to myriad benefits for students when they are taught by teachers who share their life experiences. Today, EdCast examines New York City Men Teach, an initiative that aims to place an additional 1,000 men of color in New York City classrooms. Join us for a conversation on what it takes to provide students with diverse role models and why it's so important. Next on EdCast.
With NYC Men Teach and the colloquium, it's citywide, so all of the community schools are involved from all 5 boroughs.
The goal of NYC Men Teach is to recruit 1,000 men by June 2018 from CUNY to become teachers in the Department of Education.
A lot of male teachers of color aren't in it for their subject matter. It wasn't the content that was what pulled me into the classroom. It was the fact that I would be doing something different and I would be making an impact on my community.
The large demographic of kids in New York City classrooms are boys of color.
So I believe that it's very important that we have more male teachers, simply for the fact that you don't really see them.
My guest today is Dr. Weedens Blanchard, Program Manager with New York City Men Teach in the Education Department at Ostos Community College. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Blanchard.
Thank you, Dr. Hirsch. It's a pleasure.
Let's talk a little bit about New York City Men Teach. We opened up with a little introduction. What is it exactly?
New York City Men Teach is a program that evolves from 2014. And the reason behind this program is to increase the diversity of the men of color who are considering becoming New York City Department of Education teachers. Right now, the numbers are very, very low. It was reported back in 2014 in a report that was created by the DOE that of all the individuals that provided applications to become teachers, only 8% of that number were men of color.
I think the overall figure for men altogether is only 23%, so it's a small percentage of men in the DOE to begin with. And you're saying men of color is only 8%,
which is very, 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 very low.
Now, and let's look at our student demographics.
Yes.
Male students of color make up what percentage?
About 43%. So in looking at the DOE stats, only 43% of students who are student males of color.
So that's a large percentage, actually.
Exactly.
That's a big number.
Exactly.
Now, your program works on the principle that it's important to have men teachers in the classroom, and especially male teachers of color. Why is that so important?
Well, it's very important because if you take a look at a lot of the students who are coming to classrooms, they're seeing more females than males. So a lot of the students that we deal with states that, we would like to see more men in the classroom because A, it provides them the opportunity to be able to connect with men teachers, B, to be able to see a diverse pool of educators in the classroom. So that's one of the premise behind the program as to why we created the program in the first place.
There's been some research that I read recently that really talked about how important it is for students of color to have a teacher of color in the classroom, that it's even been linked to improved graduation rates, expectations of going to college. So it does seem to be something that really does have an impact.
It does. It does have an impact because when I take a look at my experiences in the classroom itself and working with a lot of grant programs that exist within the middle schools, I see a lot of students who would like, who would prefer to work with men of color, because at the end of the day, when you have a man of color in the classroom, there's a lot of research that shows that they provide a better understanding and knowing where students are coming from, especially in the urban area. So that's another reason as to why the program started.
Now let's hear a little bit about the program itself. What does it do? What does it look like?
Okay.
I'm going to apply. I couldn't, but if one applies.
All right. So very simply, there's a person like me in every single CUNY school. All right. So So we are the program managers, and our job is multifaceted. And number one, we market the program. Also, we try to recruit students who are seriously thinking about becoming New York City public school teachers. So there's an application process that exists, is pretty much online, and there are specific requirements that you would have to meet. Since I'm at Hostos Community College, in order to be considered for the program, you would have to be pursuing an associate's degree. Nowadays, it doesn't necessarily have to be an education. All right. Okay. So you must have completed no less than 24 credits, and your overall GPA has to be either 3.0 or higher. So if you meet those requirements, then you will be accepted as a program student. So now let's say that your GPA is not close to 3.0, and let's say that you have about 18 to 21 credits. And if you show a strong interest that you are really serious about being accepted into the program, we could accept you as a pipeline student. So if you're accepted as a pipeline student, we would work with you, make sure that you are on track to increase your overall GPA, make sure that you're on track to increase the number of credits that you need. And when it comes that time, we could change you from pipeline to program.
Do these applicants have to make a commitment to working in a New York City public school?
Well, the goal is to recruit and for us to be able to satisfy the target number of 1,000 men of color by June of this year.
How are we doing with that goal?
We're doing very well.
Yeah?
We're doing very, very well. And, like I said before, we're very multifaceted. So there's a lot of benefits that exist for students who are really considering applying to this program. For example, we provide Metro cards. All right, we provide Metro cards. We provide opportunities for students to participate in various workshops that we have either in the respective community schools or workshops that are developed by the New York City Department of Education. So we have a very strong partnership with the New York City Department of Education. So our goal is, if a student is accepted from the door, all right, our goal is to make sure that they do well in classes. We provide them with advisement. We provide them with specific resources such as Metro cards, and also we, try to engage them in the various workshops that they need to know about in order to be able to become more effective teachers upon graduation.
We're going to look at one of those workshops a little bit later on, the culturally responsive education.
Yes.
But I want to ask you, so a community college student is then expected to transfer to a baccalaureate program?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so when they're at the community college level, in what ways are they prepared to be future teachers? What happens to them in this program?
Okay, so one of the things that we do at the community college level is we make sure that we educate the students on the respective certification process that students need to be aware of in preparation to become a New York City teacher upon graduation. So, for example, in terms of Hostos, when students are accepted to the program, I give them an orientation. I speak to them about the program itself. I go over the courses that they need to complete for their current degree program. I speak about the certification process that students would have to go through upon the completion of their four-year degree. Now, the other thing also is, once a student is preparing to graduate from Hostos Community College, as long as they stay in the CUNY system, their benefits transfers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so for example, let's say that a student wants to go to Lehman College. So prior to them graduating, I would put them in contact with the program manager here at Lehman College, get them acclimated, and that person would take over from where I left off.
So you really want to retain them as well.
Exactly.
We have some footage from your own website that I think speaks very strongly to how the teachers feel about the program and how students in the classroom feel about the program. So I'd like to take a look at that.
So growing up, I actually didn't have any male teachers of color. But I can say for a fact that when I look back, there was always a part of me that felt like my teachers didn't fully understand who I was.
Like having no teachers that I can relate to felt like lonely. Like I had no one to go to or talk to or discuss issues that I had.
Part of the reason why I became a teacher in the first place was because I felt that I did not get the things that I thought I should have gotten as a student from my teachers. And so I felt that as a man of color, it was important for me to become a part of the teaching system so that I could then be the person that I didn't have when I was younger. And so once I became a teacher, I realized that it was just as important for me to educate them in the academics and in the content area, but also to be a role model, to be a person that my students could look to, especially because so many, especially for Black and Latino males, we don't have those male figures in our lives regularly. And so it is important that, you know, as a man of color, as a Black man in New York City, that I'm able to connect with these other young men who are, you know, coming up without fathers, without uncles, without big brothers in their lives.
They get you. They actually know what you're going through and your issues. Like, they'll help you out, and you could just you could talk to them, feel comfortable around them. You won't feel like they're like people that you don't know. It's like you could trust them.
One of my main role models in my school is my math teacher, Mr. Lazaro. He inspires me to go greater, like to try my best in everything I do. Never give half of it, always 100%, even more in everything I do.
For Mr. Suarez, he's like me basically. Like, he's just like, he doesn't fit like the stereotypical like male. Like, I don't do sports. I dress weird. He dresses weird too, so that's awesome. Like, it was just like, hey, like, cool, we can relate.
What jumped out at you when you watched that?
Role model.
Talk to me about that.
It was very powerful, and I'll be honest, one of the schools that was featured in this video is a school that I worked in with another grant program. A lot of the you know, young men of color, they're looking for role models. They're looking for individuals that they can confide in. They're looking for individuals that they can speak to, because a lot of the things that we're seeing, especially with our young urban males, is they come from different backgrounds, and sometimes they don't, you know, receive the necessary support that they need at home, so they try to fill the void in the classroom. So in looking at that video, it really touched my heart, and that's one of the reasons why I got involved with this program, is to provide that support in hopes of increasing diversity in the classroom for the benefit of these young men who are looking for role models.
Were there role models for you when you were a young male in school?
Well, I was lucky. My father's my main role model.
Okay.
But I'll be honest with you, growing up in Queens, I did not see that many men of color in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I did.
Mm-hmm.
However, you know, my father provided me with a lot of the support that I needed.
So you had support at home.
Exactly. I was lucky. I was one of the
Mm-hmm.
few ones
Mm-hmm.
that had support at home.
Mm-hmm.
So I was one of the lucky ones.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I remember a lot of the individuals that I was growing up with, you know, through the early years that, you know, needed that role model that they never were able to receive. So, but yes.
What jumped out at me listening was how the students talked about this teacher in the classroom understands my life and understands what I'm going through and has empathy for me.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that and why that's so important.
Well, I tell all my, you know, students who are, you know, majoring in education, as future teachers, we're more than individuals that disseminate content. We are the moms, we are the dads, we're the psychologists. We are many things to all our students and everything like that. So there's a lot more to education than teaching. So when I work with a lot of the students at Hostos Community College, I reinforce that. So you have to make sure that you understand all these different paradigms
Mm-hmm.
that exist in the education field. So we're supporters, we're motivators, we're everything under the rainbow.
For how many of your students has teaching been something they had always thought about, or for most of them was this an entirely new idea?
Good question. I would say it's half and half. You know, for half of the students that I've been working with, they definitely know that education is the area that they want to go into. But for others, you know, it's an area that, you know, they thought of, they're not really too sure. And I just speak to them about, you know, making sure that if there comes a time where they want to make a commitment, they have to understand that you are about to impact lives. So you have to be sure that this is an area that you are ready to embark on.
How do teacher education programs, yours, teacher ed programs in general, prepare teachers to have that kind of empathic ability or to understand that this is the role that's expected of them?
Well, I would say the most important thing is communication. You know, from acceptance throughout the duration and even up until graduation, we make sure that we reinforce the importance of, you know, the role. You know,
Mm-hmm.
what is it? what does it involve being a New York City a teacher? Once again, like I said before, it's not only disseminating the content, but making sure that you are going to impact lives, diverse pool of lives. So the term diversity is a very important term that we utilize during the program.
Now you have some colloquia that are part of the teacher preparation. Tell me a little bit about what kinds of experiences these teachers get to get them ready to be in the classroom.
Sure.
And what about content? Is that part of it too, like academic content?
Oh, yeah. So the best way I can describe the colloquiums are, think of it at Education 101 course, but so we kind of change it up. So the term cultural diversity is something that we really try to focus on. So what we do is, when it comes to developing the colloquiums, we take a look at hot topics. We take a look at immigration. We take a look at politics. We take a look at race. So we create an environment where we facilitate those topics, and we let the students talk about that. But we let the students talk about it more so from them going into the classroom, and they're going to be involved in issues that involves race, politics, gender, as it pertains to their students.
Would that be under the umbrella of culturally responsive education? Because I know that's an important concept. Tell me about that, and what is that?
Exactly. So very simply, we take a look at culture, and we speak to them from the point that you are entering a world that includes diversity, not only amongst the students, but also amongst your peers and everything. So you have to be able to develop, sort of like, how can I explain it? The ability to be able to work with individuals across the board. So once again, we speak a lot about diversity. So the colloquiums is sort of like an opportunity. So I don't want to call it like a class, but it's more like a facilitation opportunity where students come and we speak about these topics. And we're able to kind of draw different experiences from the students in order for the students to learn from one another.
And what does culturally responsive education mean exactly?
Okay, culturally responsive education, very simply, is being aware of a diverse environment, especially in the classroom.
And we have some footage of a professor, I think, running a culturally responsive education class and some students, so let's
Sure.
take a look at that.
So I think we've just been building and at the same time tearing down a lot of preconceived notions that people are carrying in a very deep place about the children that they teach. We need to talk about race, we need to talk about class, we need to talk about the constructions that we all live under every time we're together. The beauty of this course is to get teachers to take up this idea of culturally responsive education. The best of what we can do is step out of the way and create environments where student voice can emerge.
What it means is just knowing your students, who they are, what their experiences are, what their backgrounds are.
And as we shift our thinking, we shift our practice.
CRE puts the student at the center of the classroom rather than at the fringe. NYC Men Teach understands this notion of students seeing themselves.
I grew up in Hunts Point, Rondon, Hunts Point, and I'm here today.
I just think people with inner city experiences, we should be teaching our communities.
And so we plant and we prepare and we do our best to heal.
And so with the CRE and with the Men Teach in general, I think it allows us to mix our teaching and everything we have to do with our personal character and create something new while also questioning the system that we're working in.
What do our communities look like? How do our students end up in the schools that they end up in?
We had a hand here, a hand here, a hand here, and hearts everywhere.
What we begin to understand with CRE is that if I bring my little bit and you bring your little bit and we all come together, there's more than enough for everyone.
What was your take on that?
Giving students an opportunity to explore and show their diverse background, and more importantly, making sure that all teachers, regardless of their background, understands that they're going to be dealing with a diverse pool of students, and in hopes of whatever type of classroom instructions that teachers are given, hopefully they can kind of modify the instruction style to embrace everyone.
The professor who was leading this seminar, I believe she's from Teachers College,
Yes.
she mentioned something about breaking down preconceived notions. and that it's really important to talk about race and to talk about class in these sessions.
Yes.
Why is that so important? And what do you think are some of the preconceived notions that teachers may have and students may have and that the system has?
Well, the biggest issue is there's a lot of preconceived notions that a teacher may have about certain students, about certain demographics and everything. And that's one of the things that we speak about during the colloquiums. You know, how do we go about understanding where each one of our students are coming from in order for us to be able to try to either eliminate or minimize these preconceived notions that, you know, they have. Like, for example, one of the things that we discussed about was, you know, when it comes to a lot of the urban males, there's a lot of undocumented disabilities that they may have. So if a student is having a bad day, they come to class, they, you know, unleash the issues that they're going through, the teachers are not going to be aware of that. So it's sort of like allowing teachers or helping future teachers to be able to, you know, sit down, have a conversation with the students to be able to understand where they're coming from in order for them to be able to either eliminate or reduce these misconceptions that may exist.
What have you seen as some of the effects of the colloquium?
The opportunity for men of color to express themselves, the opportunities for young men of color to be able to share their experiences. And it's been very powerful for me. One of the things I tell my students is, you're not coming here to learn from me. You're coming here for us to learn together. And that's been a great benefit.
I know there was a gentleman who spoke who also said that this kind of teaching puts the student at the center. Do you think that in some of our classrooms the students are not at the center, or that it's important to remember to keep them there?
I would say that that would be correct. In my personal and professional experience, I've seen that fact that sometimes students are not put at the center. So as seasoned educators, while we prepare young educators, it's very important for them to be able to develop the mindset for them to be able to try to put their students at the center. And this starts with communication, trying to get to know the student.
Now, you did mention earlier that you support program participants, and you mentioned Metro cards, and there were some other things. Financial support, did you say?
Yes, there are some benefits that that we provide to students when they are accepted to the program. So Metro cards is one. Also, the ability to join a lot of the workshops that are either created by us or our DOE contacts. Also, conferences as well. So, for example, if there are specific conferences that requires financial support, we would provide that support.
Do you have any idea of where these graduates go and teach? I mean, I know they teach in the city school system, but do they go to elementary ed, middle school? Where do they usually end up?
It varies. It varies. You know, it varies because keep in mind this program exists throughout all of the CUNY schools.
CUNY, right.
So it varies.
And do you have to have the BA, or do some of them leave with the associate's degree and do some kind of other teaching work of not being a teacher in a classroom? Is there something else they can do?
Yes. Some of the students that I've worked with at Hostess Community College have expressed to me that, well, you know what, even though I'm not thinking I may have not made the full commitment to becoming a teacher. You know, they're thinking about working as paraprofessionals. So that would be an example.
And how do they get help in finding jobs?
We support them.
You support that?
Yes,
so
through our DOE contacts.
Now, overall, teacher retention in New York City, teacher retention in general, is not so great.
Yes.
It's a tough job.
It is.
Let's face it, it's a really hard job. And there's a lot of turnover. Do you have any indication as to how students in your program do? Do they stick with it, the male teachers? I don't just necessarily your program in general, but when male teachers enter the system, are they staying?
We don't have that data yet because, you know, once again, the program is relatively new. And, you know, our goal right now is to, you know, recruit and try to get the men of color into the classroom. So, unfortunately, I don't have access to that data yet.
You did say that you're doing well in meeting the goal of adding 1,000 men of color teachers in the classroom, yes? Okay. So what's the next step? What happens now?
The next step is for us to meet our goal. June 2018 is where our goal has to be met, and we're kind of going through the assessment process. I believe the program will continue.
And is there a further goal after the 1,000? Is there something that comes after that?
That's dependent on the mayor's office, because all of our funding comes from the mayor's office.
So if people listening, and I think this is such an interesting opportunity, if there were men of color listening who were interested in this program, what would they do?
Well, they should get in contact with the respective program manager at the school. They could send them an email. We are online, NYCMenTeach.org.
We'll put that up.
And very simply just put in an application and one of us will get in contact with them.
Any final thoughts about this program and why you think it's been effective and why you'd like to see it continue?
It's a great program.
Tell the mayor to keep funding it. What's the bid?
Yes, well, first I want to thank Mayor de Blasio. This started under him, and great kudos goes to him. It's a fantastic program. You know, we're changing lives. We're increasing diversity. We are, marketing our services. Everyone who's part of the program is very passionate about the mission, which includes me.
We're a diverse city, so.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Weedens Blanchard, New York City Men Teach, and we will put on our website where people can go to find out more information.
Thank you.
So
thank you, Dr. Hirsch. Thank you.
And don't go away. We'll be right back with our Ed Bites. Welcome back to this edition of Ed Bites. It turns out that multitasking on a mobile phone actually isn't that good for learning. Education Week Digital reports on a new meta-analysis that found that mobile phone multitasking, especially with social media, negatively affected reading comprehension, reading speed, and lecture recall. Surprise. While adults can certainly learn a new language, there is a conventional wisdom that it's easier to learn a language when you're younger. Linguists point to a critical period that indicates that after puberty, language learning skills decline. Yet EdWeek reports on a new study from MIT that suggests that children are able to learn the grammar of a new language up to ages 17 or 18. Attaining the proficiency of a native speaker, however, is difficult unless the learning occurs by age 10. Information from the Civil Rights Data Collection indicates that children of color and students with disabilities are still more severely disciplined in schools than other groups. While suspensions have decreased, Black students are still suspended at greater rates than other groups. They also take fewer advanced math and science courses, and more are prone to chronic absenteeism. All of this is relevant to efforts to dismantle the school-to-prison pipeline. Nobody likes failure, and maybe that's the problem. The Atlantic Daily reports on research from Columbia University that indicates that learning about the failures or struggles of renowned people can actually lead to student success. On the other hand, focusing on their achievements can actually lead to a decline in student grades. Based on their research, Teachers College has created the Education for Persistence and Innovation Center, which will study failure's educational purpose. That's it for this edition of EdCast. Join us next time for more conversation on education.
We'd like to hear from you. Please send your thoughts and comments to CUNYEdcast@gmail.com.